right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started, especially now that we just added another agenda item to learn a little bit about Thrive. So actually, I think we're going to do that almost up on the top. But first, I want to share a couple of things that are going on in the area. We've had some requests to sort of talk about the things that we hear about that are happening in the area. So we always hope that you'll share the things that you're involved in, but sometimes there are things that those of us who are in these meetings aren't involved in. And one of those is that for a few years now, the Cleveland Leadership's Accelerate Cleveland Pitch Contest offers seed money for winning pitches. And this year, Shane Winnick and Courtney Smith won for their Grayter, Grayter, Cleveland idea, black and white, hence gray STEM employees, black employees, white employees, gray STEM employees, leading what they call TED Talks with a Twist, which is the idea of bringing in more black and brown folks into the workplace while also bonding over the racial divide. And we're definitely going to have them to one of these meetings to talk. I think John or somebody's going to put in the chat here in a second the full interview on Sign of Ideas, which was great. Ebony found this and sent it along to us. There are a lot of STEM touches actually from this year's presenters, including ideas surrounding financial literacy. And Adam King has been working to fill the digital divide in the Cleveland area. I don't know if you remember last month, Ebony went on and on about the kickoff for Black History Month. Well, she's back because today we celebrate Women's History Month. But before we do that, before we go into that, I'm hoping, so all of you, I think many of you have heard me mention Thrive Scholars before, as we've talked about interesting programs that involve STEM around the country. And Thrive is this really cool organization that seeks and finds low-income students of color who will be first-generation college students, but not just any student. And you know, I've talked about it before. I'm a big believer, I think most of you are as well, that we need to do things for all kids. But also, sometimes we need to be doing things for the most brilliant kids, because these are kids that are going to make, as they grow, are going to make a really big difference in this country. They're the ones who are, you know, going to cure cancer and solve world hunger and all of these things. And students of poverty, students of limited means often don't have those opportunities. So Thrive finds these kids around the country and they shepherd them through getting into college, succeeding in college at top colleges, and then getting into jobs and careers in top career paths. And TIES, the organization that John and Lauren and I do a lot of work for, is helping Thrive develop and grow a specific STEM focus track. And Semi is part of that work. Mr. Lake was hired here in Cleveland. Could you talk a little bit, do you mind, about kind of what's happening in Cleveland, and maybe if this is the thing you're prepared for, maybe what this group could potentially do to help you find these kids and also support these kids?
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it. Again, this was on the spot, so I wasn't prepped, but I will do my best.
That's what we do here.
Right. It's all good. Yeah, so Thrive, as you said, you gave a really fantastic overview. I just wanted to kind of just touch on a couple points. Again, so Thrive is a national organization, and we are relatively new here in the Cleveland, I'll say Northeast Ohio market. And I really want to stress Northeast Ohio because we're really looking to expand our footprint, kind of like Akron, Canton up all the way over to Youngstown as we continue to grow and develop in this region. But again, as Jeremy said, we are really looking for across districts, right? We're looking for those highest achieving young folks of color and really want to begin to pipeline them to really meet their full potential, and looking at top tier colleges across the country. And the goal is ultimately, when we really think about Cleveland, right, we don't want to lose any more of our top talent, and we don't want our top talent to leave. So when we're thinking about it, we want to pipeline them to top colleges, but then also work with community, where I really see a body like this being very instrumental. Obviously, we would have loved support in finding young folks if you have those connections, but also creating pathways that are going to make them really want to come back. What are going to make young folks that are going off to the Harvards, the MITs, the Princetons, and Yales want to come back to Cleveland? What opportunities are we going to create for them to kind of say, hey, we're going to provide the pathways for you to be on executive level tracks, to diversify our core sectors, to become our next generation's leaders, right? So we're looking at STEM is probably our largest, and that's really STEM in its totality. So we're looking at the health sciences and the STEM, but also the engineering and tech, but then also law, consulting and finance, careers where we really see a tremendous dearth of folks of color. And, so far in the last 20 years, Thrive has had tremendous success across the country. And it is our turn to kind of show what we can do here in Northeast Ohio, right? And this first year we were here, we kind of put a strong pinpoint into Cleveland Metropolitan and some of the inner ring suburbs around Cleveland. And like I talked about, that Northeast Ohio footprint, we're thinking a little bit larger and really saying, hey, if we can really, really tap into the best and brightest, we can create a tremendous opportunity. And just to, just quickly, just to clarify, so lower income students of color, high achieving, not necessarily first generation, but many times that does go hand in hand, but not always. And that's really it, right? Our program is provided at absolutely no cost. And the colleges that we're sending them to have many times significant endowments where they're exiting college with absolutely no debt. I think our average graduate last year maybe had $3,000 of debt after 4 years of a very prestigious education, right? So they're starting life in the positive, and we're really all focused on economic and social mobility. And so far so good. And anyone on this call that wants to learn more, definitely shoot me a note. We can connect. And we're looking to strengthen our board as well as just more partnerships in the community. So thank you for giving me a few minutes.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate, Stephen, there's a couple of questions that I'm going to throw at you, but before I do, I want to mention that these kids I hope you all have an opportunity to work with these kids at some point. I had the opportunity to mentor some groups through their capstone experiences this summer, which is part of there's a summer academy that's part of this program for 2 of the summers that they're involved. They're involved for 5-6 years. And these are brilliant kids. And then I also, as part of the STEM work, was able to do some interviews and focus groups with alumni and graduates of this program. And they have really inspiring and incredible jobs at amazing companies. So frankly, at some point, maybe we should find some Cleveland people who are kids who are participating and get them on to talk. Mr. Lake, there we go. I lost my question there for a second. Jacinda's asking, what are the student ages and about what kinds of career paths is Thrive focused on for this support?
Yeah, and good question. So as we currently stand right now, we are bringing on young folks in the junior year of high school, and we do work with them for 6 years. So that's the 2 years of high school that are remaining, and then all 4 years of undergrad. A big component of our work is actually focused on career development. So pretty much once they enter into post-secondary, we're really focused on giving them the tools and learning essentials to really be successful with the hard skills, but also the soft skills to be successful in these careers where they're many times going to be very limited in demographic when they enroll in these careers. So again, those major tracks are STEM, very holistically, consulting. So what is it like to work at like a Deloitte or something like that? But also finance and law are our major tracks for young folks that don't have coming in with an interest. And again, many do and many change, and that's okay. We also have a core track that we can kind of pipeline to wherever, but those are our main ones. And STEM is a big, I mean, that encompasses a lot, but that is definitely the majority of our young folks across the country are going into STEM.
And as you're thinking about creative career paths, while it's not a super focus now, what I will say is that it wouldn't shock me if it turned into one. This is an organization that I'm making these numbers up, so nobody write this down. But let's call it 6 years ago, there were something like 11 kids a class, and they were from South Central California. There are now hundreds of kids. And therefore these tracks have developed. The tracks are new. It used to be very generalist. The tracks have developed. So as interest grows, really it's just about supporting this very, very specific profile of students. brilliant students of color and limited means who will be first generation college students. It's a really specific profile, but it's a profile that's very, very frequently overlooked and underserved. So it's really exciting work. I'm so happy that you're with us today, Stephen, and I'm staring at Ebony's tiny square on my screen right now because I think we've got to find a time to get some of these kids on to talk for 5 minutes about their experience. Ebony, you're the boss. You don't have to raise your hand, but go ahead.
So I do have a follow-up question. Thank you for sharing on the spot. I appreciate it. But when you were talking about retaining like talent here in our area, are you referring to employers getting creative in terms of, stay here for 10 years and, you get free housing or something? I don't know. I'm just making it up. I just wanted to clarify, is that what you meant? Or did you mean like surrounding amenities for our area?
Yeah, well, I think that's a really great question. And I've worked in, workforce development sector for quite some time, even before Thrive. And yeah, I think we have to, as a community, right, as a collective, we have to really think about why are we losing so much of our talent to other neighboring cities, and what do we need to do to begin to attract? I mean, I see energy and an excitement in Cleveland brewing as of very recent, right? But we need to put some metrics and data and action steps in place to really have young folks that are going to be very critical about where they want to put down roots and where do they want to, raise families and things like that. When they're going to be getting offers from all over the country, right? Potentially the world, what is it going to make them? They're going to have an affinity to Cleveland, right? Like we all do, but what is really going to make them stay? So we have to be creative. So a part of my work is really working on the larger strategy, right? We're working with our corporate partners to kind of say, hey, you may have built-in DEI efforts and initiatives in your organization. Are you realizing them? And maybe Thrive can be a long-term strategy for you. You need folks today, great, but we can be a long-term strategy. So 6 years out, we can help you cultivate relationships. You can build, you're allowing the young folks to build social capital. You're actually putting practice into your DEI work with your staff. And it's a win-win for the community. But at the same time, our young folks are connected to organizations that they know that they can excel and succeed in, right? So, that's the work that we do, but it takes the whole community to really kind of come together and strategize, what is the larger game plan that our employer partners can play?
Thanks for that. I love it. It already like got my mind thinking like, ooh, who's going to be the first corporation to stand up with this cool, package to attract and retain, quite frankly, folks we have here too. So thank you so much for sharing.
I love it. And Stephen, the downside to this little conversation we had is now everybody knows you and is going to notice if you're not here next time. So now you're looped in, you're caught. That's what we do. We catch you, and then there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. I'm sorry. But we hope, or I hope that that we'll be able to help this initiative as it grows. All right, Ebony, we took a little bit of a worthwhile detour, but I do still want to hear a little bit about Women's History Month, which kicks off today. Is today the first? Today.
Yeah, sure thing. So, Black History Month, I share it with everyone. That was like my all-time favorite. Women's History Month is a close, second to that. So I will not give you my long stories about apple orchards and shopping and all of that, but I will share that two of my favorites when I think about going into the sky. Bessie Coleman, she was a Black aviator back in her day, and she would do the stunts. So when you think about the Cleveland Air Show, Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds go flying by, they're doing those loop-de-loops, wing walkers, all that different stuff. She would have been like that person. And then Mae Jemison. So I will share a tiny story. So our family reunion is like Evans, Jemison, all this connection. And when we had that last name, I'm like, someone has to tell us that we're related, because in our families, all of our cousins, it has to be some kind of connection. There was no connection. So I was not connected to that cool astronaut, Black female astronaut at the time that was able to go into space. So that's my little fun story. Thank you for dropping those links in the chat, and I encourage you all to read up on them for Women's History Month. And then I want to transition that into next week, kicking off Women in Construction. So we know with this NeoSTEM ecosystem family, folks share information, they share news. So I also want to share, we'll drop that information in the chat as well. So with the Women in Construction Week that's going to kick off next week, it's the Construction Employers Association and the National Association of Women in Construction. And they're basically trying to bring more women into the fold. So they are hosting a number of events. I encourage you all to check out the link and sign up for some of those information. If you know folks that are interested and want to go into that line of work, please, please, please invite them to share, or invite other employers or organizations to share in that good work that's happening. So yeah, I did a very abbreviated version for Women's History Month. I did good this month.
I happen to like your little market story last time. I thought it was great, but this is good too. Thank you for sharing all of those links. All right, so we just talked about a couple of champions, and some champions who are championing women in construction careers, but we have to get a quick update from our other champions. John, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Cavs event?
Yeah, thanks, Jared. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's this Cavs thing happening in a couple of weeks. No, it's our planning for Score with STEM is going really well. I shouldn't even say planning, we're developing it now, like we're on our way. It is March 19th for those of you that don't yet have that date burned into your brain. We are expecting a lot of really cool exhibits. I know a lot of you have been on those planning meetings already, but for the folks that haven't, we've got upwards of 25 exhibitors with close to 50 exhibits. It's everyone from the people you would expect in Cleveland, from the Great Lakes Science Center, the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, the aquarium, but we've also got a ton of other people here, or a ton of other organizations that are coming to help out and put on some really, really great, interesting, engaging exhibits for kids to do. It's all hands-on. We've got animals. We're going to have sparks. We're going to have virtual reality. We're going to have shark teeth, computers, you name it, it's going to be there. So we're really excited about the way this program is coming together. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting time. Now, here's the ask that I have for everyone. We still need volunteers. Part of what's making this work is we need a small army of volunteers to help us out at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, to help get exhibits set up, to help direct traffic, just to help make it a really fun event. We are still accepting volunteer applications, and we would love to see each and every one of you there. If you want to do it as a team building exercise within your organization, sign up for a bunch of volunteers. The incentive is there are 3 different volunteer shifts. If you sign up for one shift and come help us out for a couple hours, you get a t-shirt, which will be cool. But if you come the whole day and help us out from 9 to 5, everyone that volunteers for all 3 shifts gets a ticket to the game afterwards. So if you're interested in coming down to help out with a really wonderful event and then hang out with everybody at the Cavs game afterwards, please sign up. We still need a lot of help. And what I'll do as soon as I'm done talking is I will drop some volunteer information, some sign up information in the chat for everybody. And if you have any questions or if you want to chat about it more, just give me a call, shoot me an email and let me know, and we can talk about it. But we're barreling towards March 19th, and it's going to be a really great event. So I'm super excited about it.
Perfect. Thank you, John. And, one of the big partners for this event is the Soapbox Derby, and something else that folks have been asking about and that we're answering is to learn a little bit more about each of your organizations. I'm looking at my little Brady Bunch screen right here. We just had a little mini presentation from Stephen, which was awesome. And eventually we want to go through all of you, learn deeper from all of you. And first up on that is going to be Mark Gerber from the Boxcar Derby. He's going to talk about it a little bit. And what I challenge you to do while you're listening is, I don't know, listen, maybe it's because I'm like an ADHD 5-year-old, but in a situation like this, sometimes I'm just going to be straight up. Sometimes I tune out, right? What I'm asking you to do is not and instead be thinking, as Mark's talking, about what the partnerships and collaborative opportunities are for Mark's organization and yours. Because if we do that for all of these organizations, as everybody's talking, we're all thinking about the ways that we could be coming together and doing some interesting new things. We're going to have some amazing things come out of Cleveland over this next year. So Mark, I'm excited to learn a little more. I always wanted to do boxcar derby when I was a kid. I never did. And I'm excited to learn a bit more.
Thanks, Jeremy. So yeah, we're glad to be part of NeoSTEM and the whole STEM ecosystems. And partnership is my middle name. So if you're thinking about different ways that we can work together, feel free to reach out. I love connecting other people to, people that really want to help kids. So it's an important part of who we are. So Soapbox Derby, founded in 1934 in Dayton, Ohio. We're going to oh, I love it. Thanks, man. We're going to have our 84th annual All-American World Championship here in Akron, July 23rd. And so we have 100 race cities around the country, and kids race and qualify. So think about it as NASCAR. You show up in your local race, you win your race, and you get to go to Akron, Ohio, which, like, for most people is like, oh man, I get to go to Akron, Ohio. For these kids, it's the greatest thing in the world. There's also the opportunity that kids race, and it's almost like a NASCAR points list, and they raise points all year long to qualify as well. So we've always done a STEM day as part of that that event. I want to share a PowerPoint that I've got really quick. So 10 years ago, we started adding STEM to the mix of what we're doing at the Derby. And we do programs all over the country, impact kids in Northeast Ohio, Summit County, and then have really big programs in New York City as well. But what we'd like to do is really try and turn our event into what the CAF STEM Day is. And, so I want to share my screen. And we would like to offer everybody to become a partner and have a booth at the First Energy All-American World Championships on July 23rd. The second piece of that is, if you have students out there or kids in your groups that would like free tickets to the events, we're wide open to that as well. Normally we do the buy one, get one, or give kids two. And if parents have to come along and buy one, that's great. The other one, if you're a not-for-profit group out there, and here's the first partnership pitch, is if your group wants to make money selling tickets to this year's All-American event, we have a couple not-for-profits here in Akron that their groups are selling. They put their kids to work selling tickets, and then you guys get to keep the profits for your group. So, would really like to invite everybody to come down and be a part of, this year's World Championship. Try and turn it into more than just racing. And what we've done is we've priced the tables at $100 a group. So if you're a not-for-profit and you want to be here, we can help with $100, but $100 just offset the cost of the tents and everything that we've got going on. But July 23rd, 400 champions from all over the United States and countries around the world. I think Japan will be back for sure. We're trying to get New Zealand and China, Germany and Canada to come this year, depending on what happens to COVID. So thanks for your time. And we're just, on a mission to impact kids through racing and education.
Perfect, Mark. And if anybody has any questions for Mark, go ahead and just unmute or put those in the chat or any of those types of things. Mark, but while people are thinking about that for a second, I'm gonna ask you kind of the same question that I asked Stephen. What can we be doing? Are there specific asks that you need from this community?
Yeah, so there's two, right? You talked about it. We want you to have that experience of going down the hill. So we have some community days. Maybe when we get back to that, we're having these meetings, and I know everybody doesn't come down. We're way down. Akron's way far away, but we could host a meeting here and give everybody a chance to go down the hill.
not just a chance, but like we're going to have a tournament bracket, right?
Yeah, we would have
Everyone in
brackets
NeoSTEM.
and we would do double elimination and that sort of thing. We could have some pops and desserts and that sort of thing too, as well. But we're trying to reach out to schools, right? You know, we're aligned really well with Akron Public Schools. We need help in, you know, Kirsten, we need help in CMSD. We're trying to get some grants right now that we can engage some Cleveland schools. You know, the racetrack up in Cleveland is right there along Route 2. So anybody going out of the city and going west on 2, right below Ohio City is seeing the soapbox derby track. So we could use that track and host events and entertain kids and put on events there as well.
Sorry, I hit the wrong mute button. Kirsten, I think I saw you on mute.
Yeah, I was
Kirsten.
just, yeah, so I don't want to take up a lot of the group time, but Mark, I'd really like to connect. We just got some finalized dates around the CMSD summer learning, which may overlap really well with what you're programming. And I would love to be able to, you know, send a group of CMSD students down to the event on the 23rd. But I'd also
awesome.
like to figure out how we could incorporate, you know, building those soapboxes into some summer camp activities.
Yeah, so there's 2 things, you know, I'll reach out direct, but there's a couple things, right? So the one cool thing we started during the pandemic is we're doing field trips. So 2.5-hour field trips, the kids come down, they do a STEM activity, they learn about building the cars, they do a scavenger hunt, and then they go down the hill. And so, you know, really quick, 2.5 hours goes like that. But, you know, that essential experience or the experiential learning that these kids don't get to do, we're really proud of what we're doing. And we'll probably have 2,500 to 3,000 kids on field trips this summer. So very excited.
So I have a
Mark and
question.
Angela?
I'm sorry, Angela, unmuted. I didn't see that. I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, this is what I need. Mark, you mentioned you host some of these STEM activities at the Soapbox Derby right off of the Shoreway.
We don't right now, but we can.
Okay, great. I would like to connect with you regarding a Cleveland STEP, which is a program sponsored in part by Cleveland Division of Water and the Sewer District. I know we have some facilities right there next to your Soapbox Derby. I think it'd be perfect to bring this program, which occurs on like the 3rd Saturday of the month, to have some type of activity at the Derby. So if you can just drop your email into the chat, and then I'll connect with you after this.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks. That's awesome.
I mean, the other great thing about it for all of you guys in Cleveland, our group there is spectacular, and they'll help these kids build cars or give them cars so that they can race in the local race. And if you win the local race, you get to qualify for the World Championship. So crazier things have happened. You know, we had a young lady from Akron last year who had never raced. She raced in the school race and won, raced in the local race and won, and finished 3rd in the world. So, you know, you just never know what's going to happen with these kids.
And yet again, this is such an interesting and you know, globally known organization that we have right here in the region. And I saw Ebony mentioning, you know, We Heart Akron. I don't think it's always clear that the NeoSTEM, when we talk about Northeast Ohio, we're talking about a relatively large geographic footprint that includes lots of areas, you know, into the Mahoning Valley and all sorts of places, but certainly is Cleveland and Akron, that kind of whole Cleveland plus thing from a few years ago. Ebony, did you have a question?
Well, can I say one more thing?
course.
You know, I think it's what Stephen was talking about, right? Every partner of ours down here, whether it's First Energy, Goodyear, Mega, you know, any company down in Akron is looking for workforce development as well. So they're trying to figure out the same thing that every other company is too. And, you know, I just sent Ebony a note before this meeting about Goodyear having a couple STEM days for students. You know, so I really want to open up Akron to you guys too, if that's something that you guys need.
Absolutely. Yeah. It definitely, it fit, like Jeremy said, it fits within our footprint, our fold, and we all need it. You know, when a tide comes in, we all rise, you know, like Northeast Ohio can literally rise and meet the lake on that note. But I just wanted to point out that it was Kirsten who basically shared her experience working with the soapbox derby, the mini cars. And she was so excited just sharing the story about how all the crowds and people, families were coming over to be a part of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what better way to connect? So it got me so excited, which is why I reached out to your group, you know, in particular to dig in, you know, deep to learn more about the little kits and all that stuff. Because when you can share those, you know, priceless family moments, that's a win-win. And again, so thank you, Kirsten, for your excitement, just sharing and talking about how people were engaged with, you know, with that activity at an event.
I just ask a quick question for Mark. You know, I also wanted to share just a quick testimonial. You know, I actually used to run a STEM program years ago and had a group of high school students from Cleveland. We all built cars and raced them down the Cleveland track, and it was really awesome. About a third of the cars wheels fell off, but it was really really awesome and fun, and everybody had a great time. So that I was just, you know, testimony that the kids really loved it. But when we talk about ages, what is the target age of the young folks that, you know, you really want to target?
Yes, so we do gravity racing challenge races, which are school races where kids race against others. And so in the spring, in April or May, we have the elementary school and middle school races. And because of COVID, we're going to do those as separate days. So if there's a team that wants to build a car and come down and race, they'll race against the clock, you know, rather than, you know, 200 teams coming together at one time. And then the high school race and engineering design challenge is in the fall. So, you know, great opportunity for, you know, all four C's, right? You know, communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration for schools and teams to work together to build cars and race against other schools.
Perfect. Well, Mark, you're
Thanks
always a
for-
great partner, and I'm excited to hear more. I'm really excited about racing John down the tracks, and whoever else is willing to race me. John
yes.
doesn't know that it's not a choice yet. Grudge match. It's going to be very exciting, everyone. All right, so next up, I want to talk for just a couple of quick seconds about an event that's coming up here in June. I just put it in the chat. Now, some of you have been around for a while, may have been part of this event when it was hosted in Cleveland, a little bit prior, maybe 6 months prior to the explosion of the pandemic. The event is the STEM Ecosystems Community of Practice Convening. It used to be held twice a year in the spring and the fall. It's switching to a once a year in the summer model. This is the event where people from all of the ecosystems that are like Cleveland, all of the officially recognized ecosystems, there's 100 of them around the world, and representation from each of those ecosystems attends this big convening. It's a lot of fun. It's an immense amount of learning. The vast majority of the sessions are members of those ecosystems talking about the things that they've built and created together in very open ways, where they talk about their failures and their successes and the path to victory for those events and all of those types of things. It's a lot of fun. You know, like a lot of these conferences, you learn a lot in the sessions, and that stuff's important. Perhaps what's more important are the social things afterwards, because this is where you get to meet and interact with people who are in very similar roles to yours. So this event is coming up in June. You know, I don't beat around the bush. It is not an inexpensive event to attend, as you can see there. There are a couple of things though. Number one, it is incredibly valuable. There's no requirement to come, but if you are interested. Number two, on Thursday, we're going to be hosting a very quick kind of lunchtime, I think it's 1 o'clock, trivia contest. Just half hour virtual trivia, super, you know, nothing you need to prepare for. But everybody who attends that trivia contest on Thursday gets to access the early bird pricing that no longer exists for this convening. So if you think you might be interested, if you think this is something that your organization might support you attending, think about also attending that. I think Lauren just put in the registration link for the trivia day. Think about attending that as well, so you can get that pricing. I promise it'll be worth it. You'll learn a ton. You'll meet some new people. I always leave with new ideas and, more importantly, new people that I can call upon when I'm trying to implement things in Cleveland or in my other work. It's a lot of fun, and I really hope that you'll consider joining. Ebony, anything you want to add about that event before we move on?
No, not at all. I just wanted to make sure that folks were familiar. So, newer people like me may have missed it, or it was in a, off on the side. So I just wanted to make sure it was at the forefront and people knew what we had to offer.
Perfect. And I know these are things that maybe I shouldn't say out loud. And, this year we're talking 2 months away, but I know that one of the things in the back of Ebony's mind is there a way that we could raise some funds to help support more ecosystem members in attending? That is probably, maybe that'll happen this year. Probably not super likely for this year, but it is something that we're going to work towards next year. And you'll see when you attend that it's all over the map with the ecosystems. The lead attends from basically every ecosystem. Usually another person attends from every ecosystem. And then some ecosystems, that's it. And some ecosystems bring a contingent of a dozen people. This particular one, the nice thing about this one is that it's a drive. We're in Bay City, Michigan, which is about an hour and 45 minutes north of Detroit. So this is a drive situation, which lowers that kind of barrier to entry. And I do want to call out that Lauren just mentioned that trivia contest that's coming up here. There's going to be a bunch of prizes, but the grand prize is going to be a soapbox derby car, which is really an incredible prize. And I wish I was eligible to win, but I already know all the answers to the question, so I can't. That would be probably against the rules. So if you have any questions, feel free to open up the mic or put them in the chat or email me later, and we can go through kind of all of those things. So this meeting, excuse me, Ebony, I'm hoping that you can talk a little bit about the teacher externship program for 2022. I have to tell everybody, you might notice I'm like semi off my game today. I spent the first 6 hours of the day in the emergency room with my daughter, who's fine. She just rolled her ankle. But it messed up my entire day and flow, and I'm very, very discombobulated. So I apologize for that. Ebony, can you talk to us a little bit about the teacher externship program?
Sure. So I remember you shared your story this morning, and I'm like, oh no, but it was actually with what you were calling maybe a wayward person. You didn't necessarily have a home. You're just out there in the street. So I'm glad to see this Jeremy show up to the meeting. It was not
I did
that
at least
person from this
shower.
morning.
What she's referring to is when we had a meeting earlier, I hadn't even showered. It was a day.
Awesome. All right. So the teacher externship program. So this is exciting. This is when Ebony was just participating, Ebony as an employer from the sewer district. And I took part in the teacher externship program, meaning as an employer, we sponsored educators to come into our workplace to learn more about what we do. With that particular partnership, it's a low cost of entry, high impact payoff for the educators that's participating, and a high impact for our region. So one thing I can say, if you're a place of business or you know someone that may be interested in this opportunity, to please reach out to us, because as an employer, what those educators told me is, wow, I never knew. Like that was just a running theme as they spent time with us at the sewer district, so they got like the behind the scenes, handheld kind of experience. I see one of my old colleagues, she's still on. Angela was on, and we had an event where we mixed with her, all of that. Like we had a really good time, just, like hand holding them through the process. I would encourage you, like, if you feel like it may be too much, the whole idea behind it is kind of like to develop a hybrid model, because our educators are also super busy. So they need time off to digest all that information while you have to probably tend to the things at work. But we are really encouraging like employers to step up and to please consider like sponsoring educators to have that opportunity. It would be an amazing experience on both ends, where it's a win-win for all and for our region. So I just want to put a big cheer out there for that. And if anyone has any reservations, you can definitely like reach out to me and we can talk to you about what it means to host. And we have a ton of supportive information here at NeoSTEM to help handhold anyone through that process.
Thanks, Ebony. And I also want to call attention really quickly to Alyssa. You might see Alyssa Joe in there. If you didn't know that was Alyssa's middle name, I didn't know either. But that's
Thanks.
Alyssa. And she mentioned in the chat, no promises, but that she is happy to try to seek funding to pay for a portion or all of your attendance. So again, no promises. There are no promises here. But if you're really interested in attending this convening, let us know, and Alyssa will try to help find ways to support that attendance. Alyssa, do you want to tell us anything more about your middle name before we move on?
You're a dead man.
I don't know who put Alyssa's middle name on there, but she's blaming me and is not happy about it. All right. So now that we know I'm a dead man, I also want to talk a little. I think John put the externship info in the chat. So we've had a lot of good information here, and just shows how really critical it is for us to stay in touch and stay involved with this really important work. Women's History Month kickoff, learning from our past helps us make great moving forward. We had our surprise guest of Stephen Lake, who shared a bit about this really incredible organization that's a national organization, but now has a brand new Cleveland presence and is going to make, I feel strongly, a very big presence and a lot of change in the region. The Score with STEM event, that's March 19th. We've got an amazing post-event pre-game hype party with DJ Lily. If you don't know about her, she's a 7 or 8-year-old DJ from South Euclid who is really, really incredible. And she's going to be spinning some tunes at Tower City after the event and before the game for people to kind of have a place to go because we have to leave the arena. We learned a lot more about Soapbox Derby. You can reach Mark. Mark, can you put in the chat where people's best contact for you? And we learned more about the teacher externship program. All right. So now with our last 15 or maybe even 10 minutes, we want to get you broken into a couple small groups real quick. Please don't run away. We think this is really important. I know sometimes when we do this, a few of you drop off. It's really, really critical, though, for us to learn from each other and learn about each other. And that really in these Zoom meetings only happens in these small groups. So we're going to put you into some randomized groups here in a second. We've got two. Whoops. Don't go yet. Okay, don't click. If you didn't already click join, don't. We've got two questions for you. The two questions that we're hoping that you can talk about really quickly. Introduce yourselves, learn about your organizations, but answer two questions. Number one, are you ready yet for in-person meetings for these events? Now, I think that we'll probably always still have a Zoom in option because I think it's expanded attendance by some folks who can't get out and get to a location. But are you ready for these meetings to be in person? And whether or not you are, what about networking / social components? If we were to put together a in-person networking social component, is that something you're ready for yet? There are no right or wrong answers. We're just trying to get a little bit of a gauge so we know how to move forward over these next couple of months. So we're going to jump into these rooms, meet some folks, learn about them, and talk about those two things if you don't mind. And we'll pull you back here just before we close. Can get just sort of like with nods or thumbs up or thumbs down just in your screen right there. I'm curious kind of where you are. Again, there are no right or wrong answers, but that first question first. Are we ready to meet in real life yet? Can I get like thumbs up or thumbs down? See a lot of thumbs up and a thumb sideways. That's kind of where I am, Milani. I'm in the thumb sideways world too. And again, I do think even if we do move forward, and this is not something I've talked to Ebony about, so I hope she's not mad at me. I do think that we want to make sure that we've got a Zoom in option, A, for the people who just can't make it, and B, make it a game day call. You feel uncomfortable that day, don't come, Zoom in, and that'll still be okay. And what about the kind of socially networky side of the equation? Are you more or less comfortable with that? Mostly ups, a couple of sideways there too. All right, well, I think that gives us to some extent our marching orders. All right, the last thing I want to say before we close, because you know we really like to close exactly on time, is this Cavs event is really exciting. If you don't think it's exciting, you just haven't thought about it enough, because it's not just the event. It's not just the event. It's the legitimacy that partnering with an organization like a professional basketball team offers this organization. And more importantly, what that legitimacy is going to open up for this organization over the coming years. It's coming up really soon, and we are very short on volunteers. we'll make it happen no matter what. But we've got a target number, and that number is like 250, and we have something like half of that right now. So please, 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 that link was in the chat before. We'll send it out in an email as well. Not only volunteer if you possibly can, but if this is something your organization, your company supports, as many in the Cleveland area do, please ask the folks who are in charge of volunteer opportunities in your organization to pass this along as well. Pass it along to your friends at other organizations and other responsible adults who can really help us make this happen. It's so critical, and it's going to help ultimately the region and all of us. So thank you all for joining again today. Thank you in particular to Mark and Stephen for jumping in and talking about their organizations. Be prepared to have Ebony reach out to you to talk about yours. If you want to volunteer and get that in early, just reach out to Ebony or John and let them know. And we will see you all next time in about a month. Bye, everyone.